While not beset by an abundance of skill ranks or feats, the Druid still has plenty of great options for them. Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire, here to continue us on with the first edition Pathfinder Druid Guide, today delving into their skills and feats. And much as I said in the intro, you're not going to be awash with a particular abundance of skill ranks or inundated with feats. And so, selections of ancestry like human to get extra skill ranks each level and start off with an extra feat will be particularly valuable to you, but as always, just remember, this is just a guide overall. Pick whatever ancestry or race that you feel like is going to be particularly apt for filling in the kind of character that you want to build. Build that first and foremost. This guide is just meant to help you kind of get a feel for how the class functions, or how it can function, and how to build in a particular way. Certainly, go ahead and play with everything here to your heart's content and have fun. But now, with that preamble out of the way, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or if you've already gone on ahead and listed yourself on such an incredible roster of legendary heroes, then go on down to hit the like button and share the video far and wide. But now we'll actually start talking about the heart of the issue here today, starting us off with skills. We have Climb. Now this runs off of your strength, which for this build we are leaning into. This allows you to climb obstacles, but with your access to magic and your ability to wild shape, why? Why would you worry about this? This is something that is easily skippable for you. At most, if you really need to, one rank will be more than sufficient. Getting that extra +3 miscellaneous bonus, the fact that you're going to have a good strength score, and one rank into it will be more than sufficient to meet your needs at low level. Now, the only exception to this is if this is somehow a low magic campaign, or if you're short on resources for using your magic. If your DM is being particular in that regard with spellcasting components, then maybe this will have more value long term, but in most campaigns you'll be fine limiting this to at most one skill rank, if any at all for you especially. Next is Fly, and this works off of our dexterity. This allows you to fly around, enjoy greater maneuverability, pull off all kinds of neat things while you are flying. Maybe not the most necessary, especially since the different forms you have will be of great benefit in this regard, but still, the occasional rank may not hurt. It's just bear in mind you don't have many to work with. And skills like Handle Animal may demand a little bit more from that. Now, in this case, Handle Animal works off of Charisma, which is our dump stat, which does hurt this a little bit. But what this does is this allows you to train your animal companion. Push an animal to do a trick that it doesn't know but can perform. So that's something that can be really, really useful for you. And this also opens up one of the first areas where, say you don't want to follow the build exactly here, and you want to maybe lean into Charisma, or at least not take so much out of it, so that you raise up your Handle Animal skill already right there. So that is a particular option you can pursue. And then we have Heal, which will be working off of your wisdom, which is another good stat for us. Now this is really useful in the early levels and works with our wisdom score, but its value does drop off later on as healing magic becomes more readily available and prominent. I mean, a wand of Cure Light Wounds in most campaigns is going to be a very inexpensive investment and do so much to heal the party and keep you going and in the fight through your adventures pretty damn reliably. But again, in a low magic campaign where maybe such a thing isn't readily available, Heal will then be much more useful for through much more of the campaign. But the next skill is actually fairly essential. It's Knowledge Geography, working off of intelligence. This covers the different kinds of lands, terrain, people. It's used for astrology. It is underrated in its uses, I would say. Most DMs, in my experience at least, limited as that might be, most DMs forget about this skill, so if you can come up with some clever ideas, this is an area where you could possibly apply those and make use of it and make a compelling, convincing argument to sell your DM on certain aspects of this skill, or at least I'd be open to hearing my players do that. But the next one is absolutely a must for you. It is paramount for a druid to have this. It's knowledge nature, working also off of your intelligence. This lets you identify animals, fae, monstrous humanoids, plants, vermin, the seasons, natural cycles, and weather. Not only is this thematically appropriate, but this directly affects your ability to wild shape. You have to be familiar with the animal that you're wild shaping into. So this skill being maxed out is a must, or at most skip maybe once every 3 levels and put a rank somewhere else. But overall, this is a skill that should be bumped up. Much like the next one, which is Perception, the most rolled skill in the game. This also works off of Wisdom. You need to max this out often as well, because what self-respecting druid doesn't have maxed out Perception? Perception and Knowledge Nature are 2 must-haves for damn near any druid build at all. Definitely something to keep in mind. Now, moving on from Perception, we come to Ride, which works off of Dexterity. This allows you to pass more advanced riding checks, and it's not really relevant for us, but given that you do get an animal companion, and at later levels you can have animal companions that are very much so rideable, this could actually be very valuable if you're going with more of a mounted build. We're not in this case, but something worth thinking about. And then we also have Spellcraft, working from Intelligence. This allows you to figure out magic item properties, identify spells being cast, or if you decide to go into crafting, this will allow you to craft magic items. So definitely something worth investing in now and then. And then of course we also have Survival, working from your Wisdom. This can also drop off in usefulness as you level with magic, but can still be a worthwhile as a now and then investment. Especially again if you have a DM that is particular when it comes to magic spellcasting components, the different kind of materials and reagents you'll need for your spells, or if you're going down the route where your nature bond is more into druidic herbalism, allowing you to create extracts and potions. This will become much more important to that kind of a class, or at least I would be leaning into that a little bit more as a DM if a player went with that particular route. And then lastly, for skills, we have Swim, working off of Strength. Much like Climb, you have Wild Shape. Why are you investing in this? Transform into a fish, transform into a dolphin, a seal, an otter, a beaver. You have all kinds of options for being able to make it through the water reliably, effectively, without having to dump a bunch of skill ranks into this. So this is fine to skip. But then, of course, now we have to move on from there to our feats, which is going to really affect a lot of our abilities in and out of combat. And first off, we have Weapon Shift. Now, listed here, I have this as the first level human bonus feat. If you're not going with being a human for your druid, then just shift everything on this list down 1 step. But Weapon Shift allows weapons that you wield and are proficient with to meld into your form. Your natural attacks deal the same type of damage and gain their properties, so if it's a tripping weapon or a disarming weapon, you gain those effects, but not double weapon or fragile as an example. The trip property gives a +2 bonus to trip attempts, doesn't apply to enhancement bonuses either. So if you have a +3 scythe, for example, then that +3 enhancement bonus won't transfer to your natural attacks, but the properties of the scythe would. Just bear in mind, one thing that I found interesting here, not noted, is it doesn't explicitly mention reach weapons alongside double weapon or fragile. I personally think that's a little bit of an oversight there, but again, it doesn't specifically call it out. So rules as written, I think technically you might end up with reach attacks. I would still say no with that, but it doesn't call it out specifically and gives an example, but not limited to trip and disarm. So that's something that you would want to check with your DM about, and I'd check with them about it first before you just slip an aha, gotcha moment on them where they just kind of go no overall. So talk with them first. But then your other feat selection at first level would be Spell Focus Conjuration. Now this applies a +1 to saving throw DCs for your many conjuration spells, but this is mostly feat tax. You do have a fair number of conjuration spells overall, but still a +1 to the saving throw DC, it's not bad, it doesn't hurt in at early levels. A +1 bonus can make a big difference, but it does become less relevant later on. Like I said, we're picking this up as feat tax. At level 3, we're picking up Toughness. Since we're planning on using Wild Shape to wade into melee, having an extra +3 hit points up front will be useful, and for every level after 3rd level, you gain +1 hit points. Level 5, we are going to pick up Natural Spell. This will let you cast spells while in your wild-shaped form. This is a must-have for you. You're a full spellcasting class. You need to have access to the breadth and depth of all of your abilities and powers. To help augment those particular powers, though, we are going to take Augment Summoning at level 7. Creatures of summoned spells gain a +4 bonus to their strength and constitution. This equates to +2 to damage, attack, and hit points per hit dice. That's a pretty significant boost all the way around there. And while Summon Nature's Ally may not be quite as effective as many of the Summon Monster spells, it's still a summoning spell that you can use to bring creatures into flanking position, to help support you in the midst of a fight, to help offset the action economy. Giving them a boost in that regard is only going to be that much more helpful. Definitely worth the investment. Then, once we hit level 9, we're going to pick up Vital Strike. Make one attack at your highest base attack bonus. On a hit, roll your damage dice twice before adding strength and other bonuses. These extra damage dice are not multiplied on a crit, but they do get added into the overall total. So if you do get a critical hit, you multiply your normal damage dice and other damage sources, applicable damage sources to that critical, and then you throw in the extra damage dice. So bear that in mind there. But this is still a great boost because there are going to be many instances where making multiple attacks may not be worthwhile. This will essentially let you get pretty close to having 2 attacks in one. Then for level 11, we pick up Powerful Shape. In Wild Shape, treat your size category as 1 larger for calculating combat maneuver bonus, defense, carrying capacity, and size-based attacks like Grab, Swallow Whole, or Trample. This will do a lot to help boost some of your very, very effective forms. Then after level 11, we come to level 13 where we pick up Spell Sponge. Harmless spells with the target of you have their duration doubled per the extend spell feat for your animal companion through the share spells feature. Normally, spells that are limited to just a target of you only apply to you, the caster. However, with share spells, it allows you to take those spells and apply them to your animal companion, allowing you to really boost the effectiveness of that companion. So definitely this is great to have here because you're basically getting the effects of the extend spell feat for them. Definitely worthwhile to have and can save you in spell slots in the long run. Then at level 15, we pick up Improved Vital Strike. You make a single attack, roll damage dice 3 times before applying bonuses such as strength and enhancement bonuses. Bear in mind, much like with Vital Strike, the extra sets of damage dice are not multiplied on a critical hit, but still worth having overall. Because again, once you're at higher levels, while your second and maybe even third iterative attacks there are going to be useful and handy, you may not always have an opportunity to get everything to land. Your attack bonus may not be quite high enough even when you're wild shaped and are applying every option that you have available there. That said, this will boost your damage output overall, so making one single attack that hits pretty hard can be worth considering. Although then again, your animal forms should let you have some pretty interesting attack options and maneuverability options on the battlefield, so just keep that in mind overall. Then for your level 17 and 19 feats, there's a lot of options we could go with, but it's hard to kind of pick out there, so I just leave that up to player's choice. And in this case, I do have a couple of feats I might recommend if you're looking to kind of play around with the build overall. Feats like Dirty Fighting. When making a combat maneuver check against a target you are flanking, trade the +2 bonus to prevent the attack of opportunity. If you have a feat that lets you make the maneuver without attack of opportunity, get a +4 bonus. This feat counts as having Dex and Intelligence 13, combat expertise, and unarmed strike from meeting improved combat maneuver feats, as well as feats that require improved combat maneuver feats. So, this opens up things like improved grapple, greater grapple, so many different options that can actually mesh really well with the Druid. And bear in mind, since you have the meld weapon feat that allows you it allows your natural attacks to take on some of the properties of the weapons, like a tripping weapon. If you have that and then the improved trip feat, you're stacking on some extra bonuses there that can actually make you a surprisingly versatile threat in the midst of a fight. So this is an interesting option, but I couldn't really find a way to fit it quite in there in a reasonable timeline with everything else I wanted to put into this particular build. For this particular build, you are wading into the midst of the fight while wild shaped, and with natural spell, this is going to allow you to summon in nature's allies in order to create different flanking positions, so that can feed into Dirty Fighting pretty easily, pretty reliably. But yeah, it's tricky to kind of play around with, or at least I feel it is. But other feat options that I would recommend would be things like Mutated Shape. Add an extra appendage of your choice appropriate to your form. Make an extra attack with that appendage, so extra jaws, claw attack, an extra tail attack, things like that. Adds a lot of versatility to you overall, and something definitely worth considering. Also, consider something like Superior Summoning. Each time you use summon spells that conjure more than one creature, add one more to the total. That's a pretty handy boost right there. Some people might think, oh, it's only one extra creature. That's still one extra creature on top of everything else that you've summoned. If you've summoned 1d3 creatures, you roll a 3, that's 4 extra creatures, that's extra attacks, extra bodies on the battlefield, more positioning for flanking, more attacks from your enemy going towards the summoned creatures. All the way around, that's pretty damn handy, or at least I would think so. And leaning in with things like augment summoning, that just makes it all the sweeter for you. But these are only just some of the options available that are really, really good for the Druid. There are so many out there, so go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? What might you change overall? Certainly there's more that you could do to lean into a combat build if you really wanted to focus on that and eschew the bonuses that we're putting in here towards summoning spells, feats like Cleave or Power Attack, though Power Attack for this one just doesn't feel quite right for some reason to me. I don't know, I don't always have the greatest rationale. I'm building a character essentially, and I'm not looking to build the most broken character overall, but 2/3 base attack bonus, even with these other bonuses that we've talked about here, for some reason Power Attack just doesn't feel quite right, even though I normally like throwing Power Attack in with my melee builds, even on other builds that have only the 2/3 base attack bonus progression. But again, let me know your thoughts. We'll engage in discussion down below, and remember, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamers Den. With all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.